Vegans, life-saving soldiers.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Gardens, bringing beauty and comfort to our lives, part 2 of 3. Continue watching to find out more.
If you have the chance to visit the Republic of Albania, you will often hear Mirë se vjen from the friendly citizens, which means welcome in Albanian. My name is Elvina. The creative and forward-thinking Albanian people wish for your life to be filled with beauty and meaning. Welcome to the second episode of our 3-part show, Gardens, Bringing Beauty and Comfort to Our Lives. In last week's show, we introduced the English landscape garden and some fabulous examples of beauty and peace, which has been enjoyed for centuries. In today's show, we will move across to continental Europe. We'll first look at early types of gardens in France and Italy, and then examine how the English landscape garden spread across Europe in the 18th century and still remains popular today. Finally, we'll look at the exciting rise of urban gardening in some of Europe's large, densely populated cities. Let's begin our journey in Italy. Prior to the Italian Renaissance, which occurred between the 14th and 17th centuries, most gardens were kept behind walls and used for growing fruits, vegetables, and medicinal herbs, while monasteries kept their own gardens for meditation and prayer. The Italian Renaissance garden emerged in the late 15th century at villas in the historic cities of Rome and Florence. Inspired by the classical ideals of beauty and order, these gardens were created for contemplation and for enjoying the pleasure of the sights, sounds, and smells of nature. Over time, Italian Renaissance gardens became larger and more symmetrical, and gardeners added statues, grottos, fountains, and other water features. One famous Italian Renaissance garden is the Villa d'Este in Tivoli, near Rome. The villa was commissioned in the 16th century by His Eminence Cardinal Ippolito II d'Este, the grandson of His Holiness Pope Alexander VI, and an advisor to the French King, His Majesty Francis I. After a long history of private ownership, it was acquired by the Italian government and has been gradually restored during the last century. The garden is now a museum and is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is especially famous for its large profusion of fountains. In 1495, His Majesty King Charles VIII brought the Italian Renaissance garden style to France. These gardens were characterized by symmetrical plants in beds or pots, terraces, and also canals, fountains, and other waterworks. They also often featured grottos and statues of mythological figures. Compared with Italian Renaissance gardens, the French version demonstrated more control over nature. French Renaissance gardens were designed to illustrate the Renaissance ideals of proportion and to remind viewers of ancient Rome. Over time, the French Renaissance garden evolved into the Jardin à la Française, which means literally, garden in the French manner, and is often called the French formal garden in English. The French formal garden was built as a symbol of magnificence and glory. Some of the most grand and famous French formal gardens are at the Gardens of Versailles, which are attached to the Palace of Versailles, the principal royal residence of France from 1682 until 1789. The gardens, which include 200,000 trees, cover 800 hectares with more than 200,000 flowers planted annually. They also feature 50 fountains and over 5 kilometers of canals. The Latona Fountain, named after the Greek goddess Latona, the mother of the sun and moon gods, was first established in 1670 and enlarged in 1686. It was restored between 2013 and 2015, and now operates 3 times a week during high tourist seasons. The Gardens of Versailles normally receive over 6 million visitors a year, making them the second most visited monument in Greater Paris after the Louvre. The gardens, along with the palace, are also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The design and construction and the Gardens of Versailles was portrayed in the BBC's period drama, A Little Chaos, starred by British actress Kate Winslet, who is vegetarian. In the early 18th century, the English landscape garden found its way to France, where it developed into what became known as the French landscape garden and gradually became more popular than the French formal garden. Besides its English origins, it was also influenced by JeanJacques Rousseau, a Swiss-born French philosopher, writer, and composer who wrote passionately in support of equality among humanity and greatly contributed to enlightenment in Europe. In 1761, Rousseau published his novel Julie ou la Nouvelle Heloise, in which he described a perfect landscape where people could be true to themselves. The following year, he wrote, "Everything is good when it leaves the hand of the Creator," further explaining why he believed that gardens should model natural landscapes. As a veg advocate, Rousseau's belief in equality and reverence for life and nature was also greatly reflected in his choice of diet. He wrote the following in his book, Discourse on the Origin and Basis of Inequality Among Men.
Every animal of the higher species has ideas, since he has senses. He even combines his ideas up to a certain point, and man differs in this respect only in the more or less. Some philosophic writers have even advanced that there is more difference between this man and that man than between this man and that or non-human animal. It is not, therefore, intelligence so much as his quality of being a free agent which makes the difference.
One famous French landscape garden is Rousseau's namesake, Parc JeanJacques Rousseau, located in Eminoville in northern France. The park was created by Rousseau's last pupil, René de Girardin, in the 1760s with the help of 200 English gardeners. Rousseau spent the last 6 weeks of his life at the park and was buried on an island in the park in July 1778. His remains were ceremoniously relocated to the Pantheon in Paris in 1794. French and other European landscape gardens were also influenced by Chinese gardens. In 1743, Father JeanDenis Atherette, a French Jesuit priest and painter in service to the Emperor of China, had this to say about the emperor's summer residence near Beijing.
A beautiful disorder reigns almost everywhere, an anti-symmetry. Everything works on this principle. It is a pastoral and natural countryside that one wants to represent, a solitude and not a well-ordered palace following all the rules of symmetry and proportions.
Designs of Chinese buildings, furniture, dresses, machines, and utensils. A book by the English writer and traveler Sir William Chambers was translated into French soon after its publication. It brought a Chinese influence to French landscape gardens, so they began to include pagodas, artificial hills, and promenades. We can see that gardens have a long history in the European continent, but how about in modern society? How can gardens contribute to a healthy environment and atmosphere for the millions of people who live in today's crowded cities? Urban gardens are a great way to make cities more sustainable and more pleasant places to live in, and they are rapidly increasing in popularity, especially in Western Europe. Guerrilla gardening is gaining popularity where unattended outdoor public spaces are cultivated clandestinely and turned to something green and beautiful. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many people have been working from home instead of their regular workplaces. For many people, especially ones with small homes, it can be difficult to find a quiet place to work. So what better place than the peace and quiet of a back garden with plants and other co-inhabitants to provide peace, harmony, and fresh air? Roof space, which has often been left unused, can be converted into green roofs, which produce food and offer people an opportunity to enjoy a more natural environment without needing to leave the city or even their own building. Green roofs also provide a habitat for wildlife, extra insulation for buildings, water absorption, and air purification. In central London, there are now 700 green roofs covering 17.5 hectares, and the trend looks sure to continue as more and more people discover the benefits that gardening offers to physical, mental, and spiritual health. For those where rooftop gardening is not possible, a mini-smart indoor garden from Click and Grow is an ideal alternative. Utilizing the cutting-edge nanotech growth medium, this portable garden can bring you surprising yield in any corner of your room. Graceful viewers, thank you for your company today during Gardens, Bringing Beauty and Comfort to Our Lives, Part 2 of 3. Please return next Tuesday, September 14th for Part 3. Up next is The Elephant Shrews, the swift little gems of Africa, right after Noteworthy News. May we all be guided and protected always by the divine. Vegan, let's recreate Eden.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/AJAR.
Műsoraink sok nyelvet tartalmaznak. Kérjük, tekintse meg itt suprememastertv.com/schedule és suprememastertv.com/AJAR.